Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning to all of the loyal listeners of the Street 919 FM, and a happy New Year, happy 2023 to all of you. It is now 11:14, and this is the first day of the first month of 2023. And it seems already 2023 is racing. Seems like just a couple hours ago, I was listening to and looking at millions of dollars literally going up in smoke. Yeah, all over the country, as is the norm at the stroke of midnight on the 31st of December every year. But soon after, we will complain that we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that. But we have money for what is important to us, yes? But that is a discussion for another day, perhaps on certain issues later this week or next week. So good morning to Mr. and Mrs. Giuseppe, Mr. and Mrs. Regis. Good morning to you. Morning, Angie. Morning to Mano, Mother Tunapuna. Good morning to Tavia Andrews, Nicole Caesar, Patsy Edwards. Good morning. Diane Joseph. Good morning. Diane Charles, Scotty Tash. Good morning. Let me see who we have here on the chat. Right. Good morning to Veronica George. To the president to Neil Francois, good morning to you too, sir. To the president of Pleasantville, His Excellency Nigel O'Connor and Marissa, good morning to you guys. To all of my Allisons, Allison Haynes, Allison Samuel, Allison Rojas, good morning to you, Arlene Lewis. And all of our loyal listeners and the trolls as well, good morning, good morning. And I trust that you all had a very good New Year's Eve, and let's see what 2023 brings. Right, so it is 11:16. Let me just get straight into it. China, I wasn't planning to talk too much on the politics today, because I mean it's the day that it is, but nevertheless. So the term of President Paula May Weeks is supposed to come to an end. Well, her first term anyway is supposed to come to an end officially on the 18th of March 2023. And we would have seen making the rounds on the newspapers and the electronic and print media that the president may not seek a second term. Not that it's really her choice to seek one, but as if the offer is made to her, it's left up to her whether or not she would accept the offer. But notwithstanding the fact that we have not heard anything from the president whether or not she is interested in a second term, it seems that everybody else has already pronounced on that matter, because we've been hearing commentary from the various armchair politicians, the analysts and all of these others who not only have written off Paula May Weeks as a one-term president, but have also proffered some names as to who should be her replacement. As if that isn't the ultimate disrespect. Persons, even if it is the case that the president, Paula May Weeks, is not interested in a second term, and if she wasn't, I wouldn't blame her, because the amount of nastiness that has been thrown her way over the course of the last 4.5 years or so, to have to endure another 5 years of that, well, but it's unfortunate that as we head through what may be the last couple months of the presidency of Paula May Weeks, is that we have what appears to be a doubling down and a triple down of the nastiness, the vilification of the president, with no let-up. And again, I am forced to call out the Express newspaper, which seems to be a most willing participant in this nastiness. And they are more than happy, it seems, to provide a platform for persons who are desirous of continuing to attack the president, to say the worst of things about her, persons who are writing letters to the editor, opinion pieces attacking the president, again, her presidency, making allegations and claims which has no basis in fact. But, yeah, let me see here. No basis in fact whatsoever, but they continue to facilitate that. Even the Express itself, in one of their editorials, sought to throw their jab at the president. And I wanted to read something here, just a little snippet from the president's message, New Year message. Don't know how many of you would have read it. But it reads, wisdom and discernment and other wishes I have for the citizens of our beloved republic. The desire and ability to seek out and acquire knowledge on matters which affect the nation and then apply good judgment. If only we would stop accepting hook, line and sinker all that those who have a platform feed us and make reasonable efforts to inform ourselves accurately. It takes discernment to separate sheep from goats when it comes to sources of information. But with careful attention and patience, we can come to recognize reliable sources, distinguish guile from candor, suss out agenda and differentiate mamagai from street talk. To judge well on issues, both personal and civil, we will need to set aside confirmation bias, prejudice and partisanship, find the facts, and from there, draw rational and sensible conclusions. In so doing, we empower ourselves to make informed choices. I couldn't have said it better myself, Madam President. There was something else. She goes on to say, keyboard warriors, please do not use the anonymity or remoteness of social media to weaponize your devices, using them to inflict harm in a manner that you never would in person, because you full well know that it is unkind and unacceptable. May we return to respect for office, including addressing office holders by their proper title and name, and do not confuse the office holder with the office. That's President Paula May Weeks, in what may very well be, may be her last message in the capacity of President of the Republic. There was something else, right? So the Express, in an editorial dated December 29, 2022, entitled Redefining the Presidency, says the growing public demand for constitutional redefinition of the role of the president has never been as loud as it is now, following the news that the incumbent Paula May Weeks is not interested in a second term, opening the way for a new office holder. I don't know where the Express got that from, because I haven't seen or heard anything from the president herself stating that she is not interested in a second term. But maybe they know something that we don't. Again, and all of this is part of the campaign to hound the president out of office. So even if it is she's contemplating a second term, I am certain President Weeks reads the newspapers, and as she referenced keyboard warriors in her message, I'm sure she too is probably on Facebook and other social media platforms, so she sees all of the things that are said about her. She hears all of the things that are said about her, the criticism that comes from the population, and it's unfortunate that while the Express newspapers and all of these so-called men and women of letters who have taken the opportunity to weigh in on the possibility of Paula May Weeks being a one-term president, is that none of them have taken the time to do the research to inform the population as to the role and function of the president and what are the limits, the constitutional limits that are placed on the president, right? The things that she can and cannot do, powers she has and the powers that she does not have. So rather than deal with that and to seek to enlighten the population so they could ease up the president a little bit now, instead of calling her an absentee president and she doesn't do this and she doesn't do that and she only comes out at certain points in time, they're not interested in that. No, because if you enlighten the population, then it makes it a little more difficult for you to spread your propaganda. So they go on to see, this is the Express, on the spectrum of presidential exercise of power, President Weeks has been the polar opposite of Robinson, showing no inclination to assert her authority, even when the system sought to compromise her office, as it did when a high public official went to the president's house and succeeded in blocking the Police Service Commission's merit list for Commissioner of Police from going forward to Parliament. By her conservative interpretation of the office, President Weeks has done more than any other of her predecessors to pierce the illusion that the presidency is a thing apart from politics, and as long as the president is the nominee of the government whose appointment does not require the support of the opposition, then the president is effectively a government appointee, notwithstanding the ritual of the Electoral College. Now, we must, and you see again, I have to challenge the Express on that, because Paula May Weeks was nominated unopposed. She got the support of both the government and the opposition. So how can you say that she's a government appointee when, in fact, there was one of those rare occasions where there was consensus on the part of the government and the opposition to support Paula May Weeks? Why? Because of her background, because of her track record. As a jurist, as an attorney at law, right? All of these things. They had, both sides of the aisle had confidence in Paula May Weeks. and her capacity to carry out the role of president. But the Express is telling you here that she's a president, she's a government appointee. All right, no problem. But they continue to allow people to write things that, I think this was one of perhaps the most vilified presidents. And we've mentioned the point before. Being where she were, Anil Roberts would have made certain insinuations that the president was, with respect to her sexuality, implying that she's a lesbian, implying that she would have made certain appointments based on pom-pom politics. We had his colleague, David Naked, calling the president an insipid GA. And I say that because I know, morning to the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Right? And then we had Kamla Persad-Bissessar talking about a bishop's tea party, and that is again the basis on which the president would have made appointments and so on. At the end of the day, none of these people could stand in the shoes of Paula May Weeks with respect to her professional accolades and her professional background. Right? Kamla Persad-Bissessar, her legal career reads like an obituary. And perhaps even obituaries might be a little more exciting reading than that of Kamla Persad-Bissessar's career as an attorney at law. Let's ask Bazio Pandey and maybe even Israel Khan, her attorney, right, who took her to task with respect to her appointing herself Silk, right? But let's not forget that Paula May Weeks, prior to becoming president of Trinidad and Tobago, that she wasn't hand-to-mouth. The president was serving in the Turks and Caicos as an appellate judge on the Court of Appeal and the Turks and Caicos. She didn't submit a resume to the government and say, consider me for president. The government had confidence in her and they approached her and asked her if she would serve as president, and she accepted. But you have some people, and it's amazing. Anna Ramdas, again, Sunday Express. President Weeks' tainted tenure. Yeah. President Paula May Weeks' tenure as Trinidad and Tobago's first woman president will forever be tainted by the Police Service Commission scandal that saw the fall of Gary Griffith as top cop, according to political analysts. The sentiment expressed is that this resulted in the president vacating office not with dignity, but with disgrace. Yeah, that's Anna Ramdas writing that, no surprise. Coming back to that, there was one more thing I wanted to read. Indira Sajiwan, right. There was someone else, again, Express again, another article, opinion piece to the editor. Go, Madam President, go. Right? And as I said earlier on, the Express seems more than willing and more than happy to provide a platform for persons who want to hound Paula May Weeks out of office and ensure that her last days in office, if it's her last days in office, are as nasty as possible. All right? This person goes on to say, hear what it says here. I will not be politically correct, bordering on hypocrisy, and thanking you for your service. I can't. May I also be permitted to say good riddance? After all, I am part of the electorate which created an electoral college that elected you, albeit with great regret and disappointment. I regret that you have not served the nation well. Instead of an office that was above reproach, your term of office was scandalized and indelibly stained by the action of being kowtowed and browbeaten into subverting the constitutional duty of rerouting a certain merit list. One of the consequences of this redirection into the facilities of Swim Call is arguably a vacationing police commissioner, while the murder toll serves to 600 and otherwise crime wave of immeasurable proportion. None of your periodic addresses and greetings to the nation has had any impact. You also embarrassed yourself like many other politicians at the Diwali Nagar. Pathetic. Madam, you have hurt and disappointed a nation. You were the commander of the armed forces, an illustrious exalted title, yet you sit quietly pretending not to see the mayhem of criminals. You did not respond to the severe flooding of citizens. I wasn't aware that the Constitution placed such powers on the president, but apparently this individual, who the Express was more than happy to entertain, felt so. And so while you pretended that you didn't know where bamboo was, all of the equipment and manpower on display for Independence Day celebrations were not put into use. Compare this to how they, the Coast Guard and others, were mobilized for Greenvale. As I am here, 4 persons perished in a diving accident. No response from your charges or you. 7 persons perished in Cali Bay, and so the ill-prepared was the Coast Guard that the father of one of the fishermen had died. The government that elected you tried to malign this as a drug ride. How many mistakes has your good office made in appointing, appointing, and revoking persons in the government? Shall we remind you? The office of the president is no longer a beacon of competence, but has sunk into odium and derision for its operational faux pas. Right. Go on to say, you have not spoken out over the punishing poverty caused by import bureaucracy, biannual increases in the price of fuel, millions owed in VAT, blah, blah, blah. My dear presidents, good riddance to you, my lady, and may God forgive you. Forgive you for what? Linda Capildeo. Yeah, I feel I'll call you out. Because clearly the Express, there was one other thing I wanted to read here quickly. Where is it? It was the Indira Sajiwan Ali, who is an economist. The Express would have asked her for comment. And let me see this here. Right. Let's see if I get this here, right? She was asked whether or not she thinks the president would serve a second term. I think, is it on this article? Right. Just give me 1 sec. Let me find this here. Speaks to the mindset of some of the people who the media seems to continue to go to for comment on certain things. Let's see here. Vishnu Raghunath. Raghunath said there has been a long need for constitutional reform, but those in power prefer the status quo. He said what transpired with the merit list and the ability of the Prime Minister to intervene, causing it to be withdrawn after it was delivered to President's house, would suggest that the Prime Minister going forward would like to maintain their status quo. I am disappointed with her tenure. I was there at the inauguration. I heard her first speech. I thought it was the start of changes to come. I don't think she has made a mark of distinction in holding the office of presidency, and there is a taint on her tenure. I'm not seeing what I wanted to read here from Indira Sajiwan Ali, who suggested or implied that the president may be inclined to seek a second term, but only because of the perks of office. You know, the money nice, the perks nice, and so therefore anybody would want to serve as president if only because of money. So it seems to me, if it is that the government were to approach Indira Sajiwan Ali and offer her the position of president, she would gladly take it. But based on her thinking, because the perks nice, the money nice, yeah, you don't have to worry about nothing. And, all right, can't find that. But there was one thing in particular that these folks spoke about, right? Well, two things, actually, that the president has been most criticized for. The view by a lot of people that she was an absentee president, and two, that whole issue with the merit list matter. And I touched briefly on the issue of the president being an absentee president. And again, as the president has encouraged persons to do, is to do your research. Do your research and find out what is the role and function of the president. Read the Constitution and see what powers the Constitution affords the president, right? Rather than jump out, and the fact that people, in one of the articles there from the same Linda Capildeo, who implied that being the chairman, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, that somehow she could have deployed the army and whoever else to try and treat with the crime situation and all of that. Nonsense. But it was her predecessor who told us, powers you think I have, I don't, and powers you think I don't have, I do. What are those powers? He never defined it. It's just a statement that, defined his legacy. But we don't know. And again, the newspapers, the Express, and all of these people, Indira Sajiwan Ali, this Ghani guy, Hamid Ghani, and Vishnu Raghunath, and all of these people, instead of you all taking the opportunity when the Express approaches you for comment, instead of taking the opportunity to enlighten the population as to why the president may have seemed to be an absentee president, why it is that the president would not have been outspoken with things that you all think she needed to speak about, the crime situation, perhaps poverty, and whatever else, that you find she didn't say enough, or that she was in hiding. Again, the issue of constitutional crisis, that if every Monday morning the president decides that because 300 and something thousand people who voted for the UNC are upset with how things are running in the country, and because some of them sent her a letter that she needs to now have a press conference, or she needs to do a message to the nation, right? An address to the nation to what? Criticize the government, to vilify the government. And what does that do for the people, the other 300 and something thousand people who would have who voted for and support the government? So then, for them to say what, that the president is UNC? The president has to walk a fine line. She's supposed to be independent. As a human being, I'm sure she has her opinions on some of the things that's happening in the country. I'm certain she's not pleased as a former attorney and a jurist, is not pleased with the state of crime in the country. But this picture that is painted of her as being aloof and uncaring about what happens or is happening in the country. And that, therefore, is the basis on which people feel it's okay to say some of the nastiest things about the president. All of these armchair analysts, where were they when Anil Roberts was saying all these nasty things about the president? Where were they to come and condemn him for that? Where was the Express to approach these people to ask them for comment on what Anil Roberts has been saying on numerous occasions about the president? Where were they? Where was the Express? Where was the editor, the Express editor, to write an editorial to condemn him for that? When David Nackett did his live and called the president all kind of thing. When Kamla Prasad Bisesa attacked the president on the basis talking about Bishop's Tea Party and all of that. Where was the Express newspaper and the others to approach all of these armchair analysts and to ask them, what is your take on what the UNC is doing to the president? And encouraging their supporters to also to take to Facebook, because whenever they put out one of these posts and you read the comments, they were only too happy to double down and triple down on the nastiness and the disgusting things that they had to say about Paula May Weeks. So I don't blame her if it is that she intends to only be a one-term president. As she mentioned in her speech, I didn't read it, but she talks about how she looks forward to being able to walk her guests to the gate and to her gate as they leave and continue to have conversation with them as they leave. These are things, you see, because people figure when you're in high office, it's so great and a lofty position and all of the perks of office, but it places certain limits on freedoms that we, as private citizens, take for granted. President Paula May Weeks can't just jump in her car and drive down the road. If it is she feeling for a pizza or she feeling for some ice cream or something, she can't just jump in her car and go drive down to Häagen-Dazs and sit down and relax. She can't do that. Right. So the THE has a little something for 15 minutes at 11:55. So let me see how quickly I can wrap this up, right? The other issue that I wanted to touch on, I wanted to go a little bit into that, but time will not permit. You see, this issue about this merit list and that the president and what the president do and that the president breached the Constitution. I have asked the question before and I'll ask it again. Where in the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago does it say that the merit list cannot be withdrawn? Could anybody point me to the clause in the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago that says once the merit list is presented to the president, that the Police Service Commission, if they come into information that they are of the view tarnishes the list, that they cannot request that the list be withdrawn? Where does due diligence end? The Police Service Commission has a responsibility to ensure that the merit list that they submit to the Parliament is one that is above reproach and can withstand the most robust of scrutiny. And therefore, the Police Service Commission has a responsibility to ensure that they scrutinize the background of every single person whose name they propose to put on that list to send to Parliament, because this person is going to be holding the position, or the highest position in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. So I asked the question, since everybody up in arms because, the merit list, and it's because of the merit list and the Prime Minister intercepted the merit list and that resulted in the collapse of the Police Service Commission, and because of that we don't have a substantive commissioner of police and all of this nonsense, and Rowley do that because he wanted to handpick whoever he... Listen, even if the list had gone to the Parliament, this talk about Rowley wanted to handpick who he wanted to handpick for Commissioner of Police. You all seem to forget the process when it reaches the Parliament. that the government, having the majority, will decide who is going to be the commissioner. So it's the same hand pick. In the same way in 2018, when the man who was selected, Gary Griffith, was not first, second, or third on the list, he was fourth. And in the same way the government was able to bypass the first three nominees and go to number 4, it is the same thing. So if it is that the Prime Minister and the government did not want Gary Griffith as Commissioner of Police any longer, then when the list comes to the Parliament, I don't know why it is the UNC continues to give people this impression that if the merit list had gone to the Parliament and it wasn't withdrawn, that Gary Griffith would have been selected as the Commissioner of Police. And of course, you have members of the literati who don't understand that concept, because no matter how you try to explain it to them on Facebook, Lord Father, you know, they always say never argue with a fool because he'll beat you with experience. And I have learned that on several occasions, trying to pound sense into some of the supporters of that other party. The fact of the matter is, and again I ask the question, so if it is that the information that the Police Service Commission had gotten that resulted in the withdrawal of the merit list, if they had gotten this information one day before they sent the merit list to the President's office, or 2 days before, and they peruse this information, and this information indicates that one or more of the nominees, the proposed nominees, was criminally compromised, what should the Police Service Commission have done? Nobody answers that question. In fact, nobody who wants to attack the President and the Prime Minister and the former head of the Police Service Commission, none of them have discussed that issue as to what should have been done with the information. And if it had gone to the Police Service Commission prior to the list going to the President's office, what should they have done? Should they have still forwarded the list to the President now that you are in possession of information that implies that maybe one or more of the nominees on the merit list might be criminally compromised with respect to the issuance of firearm users' licenses? Should that list still have gone to the Parliament? So what is the difference if they got the information a day before or they got the information on the same day? As the President indicated, the merit list was withdrawn the same day. What is the process? When the merit list leaves the office of the Police Service Commission and it gets to President House, what happens after that? Does the President open the envelope and go through the list and look at it and what? Peruse it and then put it back in the envelope, seal it back and send it to the Parliament? What is the process? Again, the men and women of letters, all of these analysts who were able to pontificate on the whole situation, did they ever discuss these issues to enlighten the population as the President has suggested? What is the process? Where does due diligence end? Are you then saying that the Police Service Commission, in receiving this information, notwithstanding the fact that the merit list had already been to the President's office on the same day, we don't know if it was withdrawn within half an hour, 1 hour, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, does it make a difference? So I hand the President the envelope, or the President's Secretary the envelope, and then 10 minutes later, I got information that says, hey, one of the persons, or 2 or 3 of the persons, the nominees on this list, we got some information that they may have misbehaved in public office. So I'm on my way, walking out of well, not me, the head of the Police Service Commission is walking back to her car and she gets this information. And now, she hand the list 10 minutes ago. Looking at the information, it says, oh boy, well, we didn't know this. Had we gotten this information beforehand, we would not have put this person's name on the list. Or we would have delayed the merit list going to the President's office until we conducted an investigation to do further due diligence in putting together the list. So you're walking to your car and you get this information. What to do, eh? Well, I done hand the President the list. Yes, to hell with that. And just throw the envelope of the information at the back of my car, jump, and she gone. Right? You're going your way. The list goes to the Parliament, and then it's being debated. And nominee number 1, so-and-so, and this person's name, I don't know who it is, because certain people claim that their name was at the top of the list. I don't know how they know that, because if it is the only persons or the only entity that saw the merit list was the Police Service Commission, and for a short time it was in the possession of the President, how Mr. So-and-so know that his name was at the top of the list, because that is supposed to be a confidential merit list. But again, these issues were not discussed. That's not important. How he know his name was on the list? Was there a leak? Did somebody pick up the phone and say, here now? Yeah, you are the top of the list, boy. Yeah. How we know that? Right. And if that is the case, was that fair to the other nominees who were not privy to that information? Because you didn't pick up, if there was a leak, you didn't pick up the phone and call all the nominees and say, well, here, you are number 2, you are number 3, number 4. You only call number 1 and tell he, and the rest of them don't know. But that's okay. That didn't taint the list, right? No. That didn't taint the list. You know what tainted? The fact that the head of the Police Service Commission pulled it back, having gotten information that now rendered the list unable to be considered above reproach. So the implication is, coming from everybody who criticized that whole scenario, was that the list should have gone to the Parliament, notwithstanding the fact that the Police Service Commission was now in receipt of information. So what are they supposed to do with it? So the head of the commission goes back to her office and she sit down and she looking at the information. But what to do, eh? Well, the merit list ain't go to the Parliament yet. Do I really want this list to go to the Parliament where 1, 2 or 3 or maybe more members on the list are compromised? So what should I do in this case? Well, we need to launch an investigation. But how can I conduct an investigation into nominees on the very list that we allow to go to the Parliament? So while the Parliament debating the list, 1, 2, 3, 4 more nominees on the list are the subject of an investigation. 2 of the investigations that have completed showed up wrongdoing. The Pritchard investigation and the investigation done by Stanley John. We still have the Police Service investigation ongoing and the investigation by the Police Complaints Authority. And the likelihood is that those 2 investigations will also show up the same malfeasance as has been identified in the other 2 reports. But you have these learned men and women telling you, no, they should have sent the list to the Parliament and allow it to be debated. Now, Gary Griffith, who claimed that he was first on the list, again, I ask how he knew that, I don't know. Probably a clairvoyant. We know that he currently has the state before the court, the Prime Minister, before the court, in an attempt to avoid having the FUL report laid in the Parliament and further published for public scrutiny, on account of the fact that he claims that he didn't have an opportunity to respond. Now, if it is the merit list went to the Parliament, as Anil Roberts and Kamala Prasad-Bisessa and the rest of them in the UNC are telling you, notwithstanding the fact that the Police Service Commission was in receipt of critical information that could have changed the complexion of the merit list if they had gotten this information a week before, 2 weeks before, whatever, as the case may be. When the merit list went to the Parliament, it would have had to, and it's being debated, I imagine that in rejecting nominee number 1, in rejecting nominee number 2, in rejecting nominee number 3, or whichever, how many ever nominees would have been rejected, the government would have had to indicate why we are rejecting these individuals. So then, you would have found a situation where the Prime Minister, whoever was piloting, would have to say, well, the National Security Council came into certain information and then disclosed this information in the Parliament, where the nominees would not have had an opportunity to defend themselves, which in and of itself is, in a sense, is publishing the information. Now, we saw what happened with the live sport report, right? We saw what happened with that, where the goodly Prime Minister, in her wisdom, decided to publish the report in the Parliament, read it out, right? And then what happened? Matter went to court, report thrown out. Not for the substance of the, or the findings of the report, but for the fact that the subjects of the report claimed that they didn't have an opportunity to respond to the said findings. So we would have had a situation now where the Prime Minister would have been chastised, and the government, for bringing information into the Parliament in debating the merit list, the tainted merit list, in order to proffer their reasons as to why they're not supporting nominee 1, 2, 3, or whoever, which could constitute tipping off, because you come in the Parliament now to read out something, to disclose information that certain persons may have engaged, based on this investigation, may have engaged in criminal activity, and you tip them off, well, hey, look, we know what is going on. Now, last I checked, tipping off is a crime under the Proceeds of Crime Act, but apparently that don't matter neither. No, that doesn't matter. You should have sent the list, President, when it is, if it was 5 minutes after, 10 minutes after, 15 minutes after she got the merit list, and Blessy Prasad came back and said, Madam President, I need to take back the list because we need to do further due diligence. And the president was supposed to say, no, sorry, it touched my hand, so therefore I can't give it back to you. That's what the president was supposed to say. Not say, well, okay, what is the basis on which you need to withdraw this list? Well, information has just come to hand which indicates that one or more of the nominees may be compromised. And we don't want to send a list to the parliament to be debated where you have persons who have questions to answer and run the risk that such persons could end up sitting in the office of the Commissioner of Police, and then the TTPS is embarrassed 6 months later or a year later because the person who was selected as Commissioner of Police after an investigation is found to be culpable, criminally culpable, with respect to the issuance of firearm user's license, as now being escorted out of the office of the Commissioner in handcuffs, or the Police Service Commission having to suspend the Commissioner of Police because he or she finds themselves the subject of a criminal investigation. So either way, the police service is embarrassed. And internationally now, we're seeing that, the Commissioner of Police in Trinidad and Tobago suspended for whatever reason. That's what they're saying now. So we weren't told if it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or an hour later. All we know is that the merit list was withdrawn on the same day. But they're telling you, no, you should not take it back. Let it go to the parliament to be debated. And right. And then as a result of the government's hand being forced to release information in the parliament during debate as to why they're not supporting this nominee or that nominee, the report becomes invalidated. Why? Because the individual not being able to respond in the parliament decides to go to court to file for an injunction or whatever it is to say, right. And that is what the government in waiting is telling you makes sense. That is what should have happened. Again, I ask the question, when does due diligence end? Due diligence meaning that the Police Service Commission had a responsibility to ensure that they did everything in their power to vet every one of the persons they proposed to put on that list to submit to the parliament. And therefore, if it is information came to hand at the 11th hour or at 11:59, what are they supposed to do with this information? This is what they're not talking about on the other side. This is what the armchair analysts not talking about. Nobody has proffered an explanation or a suggestion as to what should have been done with that information. You know what? Because we like couture and bacchanal. And we find that this administration, after 7 years, has no set of bacchanal and no confusion and so on as obtained by the predecessor government. So, listen, any little thing we get, we need to nail it to them. Forget reason and common sense. Throw that out of the window. Any opportunity that presents itself for us to say this government, you see, look, finally we get something. We're going after them. Hell hard. But I would remind persons, all who want to say, as I read there just now in at least 2 articles, that the reason why Gary Griffith is no longer Commissioner of Police is because the Prime Minister intercepted the merit list at President's house and all of that, and because he wanted to handpick. I would remind you that notwithstanding the withdrawal of the merit list, Gary Griffith was still appointed to act as Commissioner of Police. Yes. And the only reason why Gary Griffith's acting appointment as Commissioner of Police came to an abrupt end wasn't because of anything that Keith Rowley did, wasn't because of anything that Blissy Prasad did, wasn't because of anything that Paula May Weeks did, right? It's because Anand Ramlogan, through his lackey, Ravi Balgobin Maharaj, petitioned the court, invited the court to make a determination as to the validity of the appointment of Gary Griffith to act as Commissioner of Police. Justice Nadia Kangal, who would have heard the matter, notwithstanding protestations from Anand Ramlogan, because he claimed that he had a number of other matters before this judge, and that she, and I know that a lengthy period of time had passed and she hadn't rendered any judgment on these matters. She, having studied the whole matter, agreed with the submissions of Mr. Ramlogan that Gary Griffith's appointment to act as Commissioner of Police was null and void and of no effect based on the procedure employed to appoint him. And it was on that basis that Gary Griffith's acting appointment came to an end, because of what the UNC former Attorney General Anand Ramlogan did. He did that. And Gary Griffith would have proffered a reason as to why he thought Anand Ramlogan did that, was so that he could, Gary Griffith, who is a material witness in the witness tampering case against Anand Ramlogan, for which he is before the court, that he was making a case to say that when the case is called and Gary Griffith is called to testify, that he could be made out as a hostile witness, where it could be said that the reason why he's saying these things and the reason why he claiming that Ram Logan asked him to make a call and all of these things, that it is lies, and he's only saying that because Anna Ram Logan took him to court and cost him his job as Commissioner of Police. And therefore, Gary Griffith's testimony cannot be trusted on the basis that it is coming from a place of bitterness and is a vendetta he has against Anna Ram Logan for costing him his job. That's what Gary Griffith said. Let us not forget that. So to my UNC listeners, I just want to remind you all, Gary Griffith's tenure as acting commissioner came to an end because of Anna Ram Logan, not because of anybody else. We go to the ads. As I said, we have a paid segment from the THA, and when we come back on the other side, we take your calls. Stay locked. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend.
Yo. It's a feel-good weekend.
On the street.
I wanna make love to you.
Where we turn down the talk and turn up the music. Playing all your favorite songs and artists of yesterday and today.
We sing, send me after down before. When all the sun get red, I'm like a blazing fire.
Right here on the street, 919 FM. You've got bills to pay, and so do we. Let's go pay some bills on the street, 919 FM. We've defended.
According to the Bible and according to the Quran, the baddest man ever lived was Pharaoh.
Informed and whatsoever.
None. You coming and talking. We having a talking point about a man just saying something.
You don't have a good record where that is concerned. You don't. And I will leave it there.
And entertained you by bringing current pressing issues with a balance of talk and music. Together, we have conquered 2022. And together, we will conquer 2023. We are the street. Today, tomorrow, and forever. Happy New Year from the management and staff of the street, 919 FM. The Precious House has been moved to Sundays, 1 to 3 p.m. to facilitate Precious in her future endeavors outside of the street, 919 FM. Her show, The Precious House, can now be heard on Sunday as you enjoy your Sunday afternoon with her. Same energy, same vibe, and great music that you, the listeners, love. And after Carnival, you get the opportunity to request what you want to hear. Dictate what your radio sounds like by requesting the music you love the most. Music that created your best memories. Wipe your feet and come in on The Precious Show. New day, new time. Sundays from 1 to 3 p.m.
Lamentations chapter 5 verse 21. Turn us back to you, O Lord, and we will be restored. Renew our days as of old. The year 2023, the year of full recovery. The Street 919 FM asks you, the listeners, to join us on Monday the 2nd of January from 5 a.m. till 12 midnight as we pray for Trinidad and Tobago. Join the pastors on the Street 919 FM for our full turn back to you, O Lord. Lamentations chapter 5 verse 21.
Ladies, the world's hottest soca stars you ladies love are coming to the largest gathering of women ever.
Soca for her.
23, Friday, February 3rd. Boys. Lyrical, Iwer George, Urban Owls, Mama Nappy.
Is it me or the weather that I'm feeling so?
Representing the Caribbean, Skinny Fabulous.
Everybody push something in the air now. Behavior nothing.
Problem Child, Moto.
You don't
know this your boy Moto there from St. Lucia. February 3rd is all about Soca for Her. Moto will be live.
If you can be my woman, I don't care. I want you to be the outside woman.
Adamo! Joining the Queens, Patrice Robin.
And Nadia Batson. Get early bird tickets now at islandetickets.com. Cachets nationwide.
Extra Foods Grabbers Up.
Soca for Her.
Coming to the Queen's Park, Savannah.
Friday, February 3rd.
Join Pastor Kelvin Heinerine and friends for The Way, The Truth, The Life Radio Ministry, a Church of God ministry, live on the street 919 FM from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. This and every Sunday on the street 919 FM. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father except through me. John chapter 14, verse 6. For further information, contact 686-3845, 349-5178, or 342-7303.
Scotiabank Magna MasterCard is back with its special Christmas giveaway. Just swipe for more rewards. Every time you swipe your card, get instantly entered for a chance to win 1,500 points on your Scotiabank Magna MasterCard. Get more this Christmas. More points, more rewards, more money. Swipe for more rewards today with your Scotiabank Magna MasterCard. Promotion runs until January 15th, 2023. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Visit MagnaRewards.com for more details. Approved by the NLCB.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 9.
Whoever the cake come on, all they eating it, Start. Before the responsibilities of public office increased, I spent most of my downtime in the confines of the kitchen. It has always been and still remains one of my favorite spaces, although I'm unable to devote as much time these days. Here is where I feed one of my greatest passions, which is baking, a love I'm certain I do not possess alone. For me, baking is also an unparalleled masterclass in philosophy, one that holds much wisdom for all of us as we approach the dawn of a new year. Perhaps the most important of lessons is that good things take time and are often worth the wait. In order to deliver any product of quality that can be thoroughly enjoyed, an intensive process is usually required. When baking, a seasoned baker knows that certain time-consuming aspects cannot be rushed, that planning, precision, and patience are key ingredients. Though not listed on the recipe, they are key ingredients. The business of governance strikes a similar chord and requires an even healthier dosage of this triad as the stakes are higher. As an administration, we contend with a number of long-standing issues which will take time to address. However, I can assure you that we remain duly committed to finding tangible and sustainable solutions to these challenges. In your own daily lives, I also want to encourage you to exercise a measure of healthy patience, especially as we move into another year. Oftentimes, we are guilty of creating personal resolutions without giving ourselves enough time for the transition. Some call it quits before the desired change manifests. When the ultimate goal is change, then a delicate balance should be sought between accountability on one hand and patience on the other. This type of patience ought not to be passive, but more so a pragmatic understanding that any evolution is in fact a process. It is a time not to be daunted. Instead, this is a phase that should be wholeheartedly embraced as the possibilities are endless. Similar to baking, moments of difficulty will also arise, even after trying to follow instructions carefully. The scenarios may feel disappointing in the moment, but they allow us to further improve our skills. It is the unexpected outcomes in the kitchen which may help us to get it down to a science and ultimately boost our confidence. With more time and experience under our belts, we are able to boldly add our own unique touches to the recipe. We start infusing the elements that we believe would make the finished product even more enjoyable. In the last year, I am particularly proud of the many moves we have implemented in order to change the lives of countless Tobagonians and residents across the island. After years of climbing 192 stairs daily, this administration finally constructed a King Peter's Bay Hill Road in 6 months' time as an absolute game changer for the residents who can now have vehicular and emergency access to their community. In Scarborough, we constructed 2 roadways and 2 bridges in 1 month, linking Smithfield to Dutch Fort, providing road users with an alternative route to ease the growing issue of congestion in the capital. The residents of Lamy Road in Argyle are celebrating as their once near impassable connector road is now equipped with drainage and is being paved as we speak. We were also able to increase the salaries of CPEP and URP workers to the point where they are remunerated at a higher level than their counterparts in Trinidad. The development workers in agriculture are now remunerated at the same levels as their daily rated colleagues, giving them a much larger spending power. In terms of housing, a computerized draw was held for distribution of houses in Riseland Housing Development, 43 applicants being successful thus far. This process moved Tobagonians closer towards becoming homeowners in their own home soil. The Division of Settlements had the single largest distribution of home improvement grants in the history of the THA. The Division of Food Security also had the single largest purchase of a fleet of vehicles and equipment for farmers through the tractor pool service. The Division of Education had the single largest July-August school repair program in our history. Tobago also hosted its first major indigenous carnival with some 30,000 plus visitors. We cleared the backlog of cataract surgeries across the entire island. TNTech is currently installing electricity along the Pig Farm Road in Goldsboro so that farmers can have access to energy and be better positioned to use electrical equipment, and to also install security systems which will help in the fight against predial larceny. Further, those same farmers have finally started receiving water from the wells that were dug in the area a long time ago. We paid WASA in full for the laying of pipes and for the delivery of water to the farmers in Corland and to the farmlands in Belmont. Recently, the THA had to intervene to stop the disconnection of electricity from major hotels on the island. The Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association has been advocating throughout the COVID-19 pandemic period for coverage of the reserve capacity charges that were unfairly levied against them during the 2 years of lockdown. This THA intervened and fixed that. And talking about tourism, we have repaired the jetty at Little Tobago in an environmentally friendly manner, and all facilities there have been upgraded. Boats can now safely dock, and visitors can enjoy the walking trails with rope railings for the first time. The Castara Road was rebuilt in 2 weeks amidst the incredible levels of rainfall. Roxborough received a much-needed revetment in the fight against rising sea levels and coastal degradation. The Google Patch Bridge is nearing completion. We trained and facilitated 86 business startups in 2022. Approximately 3.2 million in grants were given to small and micro enterprises last year. And we have been converting all of those short-term contracts in the TRHA and elsewhere in the THA to 3-year contracts. We remove the colonial dress code as we make the public service more customer-friendly. And these are just a few of the ways we were able to transform the lives of Tobagonians in under 1 year. I am therefore excited for the approaching 365 days. Excited to make even a greater difference. We have the ingredients from our irresistible natural treasures to the hearts of our people to build an island that is truly remarkable. But as it is with baking any cake, one has to be careful with how one uses the ingredients at hand. The right ingredients used improperly can result in an imperfect cake. As we say in Tobago, your cake will drop. But as it is with any family, when the occasional cake drops, whether it's because you run out of gas, or electricity went, or some miserable child opened the oven inappropriately, guess what? We still eat and make merry. In 2022, we baked several perfectly moist and fluffy cakes. But we had 1 or 2 that dropped. Therefore, as we approach this new year, we recalibrated our recipe so we can achieve the perfect result every time. This new year offers us a reset and a recharge. The opportunity to get us closer to those aspirations yet to be achieved. As the ones you entrusted your faith in, I can say that we are not afraid of the elbow grease and the heat that must be endured to usher in the future that you so rightly deserve. So hold tight and maintain a posture of expectancy. Continue to work diligently to elevate yourselves and this little promising island. There is much more still baking in the oven for Tobago in 2023. And of course, when you take time baking, you end up with a beautiful, fluffy, moist cake. I was saying that before I cut it. And there's nothing better than sharing a perfectly baked cake with people that you love. How is it, you good? His Excellency. Yeah. You was on Cyril? You was on Cyril?
It's actually good. Really? Yeah. Okay.
No.
It's really good?
The Cape Best.
And actually very fluffy.
And so, from my family to your family, to all of you, we want to wish you a happy new year and a prosperous 2023. God bless you richly.
Right, welcome back. That was the, an address there by the Chief Secretary of the THA. The cake looked a little dry, but, the proof is in the eating, eh? And I must say, the Chief Sec have a nice kitchen there, boy. Very nice, very, very nice. Right. Yeah, so before I take the calls, I see there are some folks on the, the trolls on the chat who calling for me to do a review of 2022. I will oblige you. I don't have the time today, but I'll oblige you. You know why? Because I saw last night TV6, which is a sister company to The Express, did a year-end review entitled Dodging the Bullet. Yeah, interesting name, Dodging the Bullet. And since they wanted to be biased to all the negative things that happened in 2022, I will oblige and we will do our review showing all of the positive things that were done in 2022. That, as I always say, when it comes to those things, to the negatives, you all have 20/20 vision, but when it comes to the positives, there's only cataract and glaucoma. Well, don't worry. We have 20/20 vision with the positives, and you're going to get that. Yeah? So you want me to talk about that? No problem. Let me see here. Snow. Right. Mr. Chance, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic, and I would be so happy to join you when you're doing that 2022 review of the positives. So I too took notice of that negative spin that the media and some elements in the media and the Express in particular trying to put into the minds. I always tell the people they are seeking to rent a space in your head. But before I want to join you in debunking the naked nastiness. Those are words that I don't use lightly, because I don't use those words in the public forum. But I want to say it. The naked nastiness trying to deal with the tenure of President Paul Weeks. But before I do so, let me, in the tradition, in the normal tradition of Christmas greetings, let me extend a Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, Dominic, and your family.
And to you.
To Sharon and Bruce. Yes. To Angie, 1285, Jen, Basti Street, my cousin Punella, Pilgrim Trace, Mano, Miss Carol, Miss Dina, yes, all the junior Barataria, all the Titans. A very special New Year, Happy New Year to you. And my Tobago friends and family, Mr. Mount St. George, I hope you are okay. Mr. Crown Point, Mr. Archer, Miss Crosby, Miss Lyons, and all the Tobago callers. Special love and blessings to you all in 2023. I've not forgotten all the international titans. You continue to make this show what it is. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. And I hope Almighty God continue to shower each and every one of you with His richest blessings. Now, I want to join you, Dominic, in debunking that. You see, I want to join you, Dominic, in debunking that. Those nasty attacks coming from them. You see, these are the political masqueraders. Some of them masqueraders under the name of political analysts. And I want to do like you too, I want to call them out. I call them the Express. I calling out Anna Ramdas. I calling out Dr. Winford James. Yes, he was part of it. Yes, Dr. Winford James. You should be ashamed. Yes, calling out you. Calling out Hamid Ghani. Yes, and so many of the others. There before us, Linda Kapildeo, Indira Sajiwan, Dr. Raghunath, yes, all of them. And I'm not leaving out those corrupt, unpatriotic UNC members. I'm not leaving them out. But they are part of the rhythm section trying to sully the name of Her Excellency the President. So I'm going to ask this question. I must ask this question, Dominic. I must ask it. Because today I want to take charge, just like we did for the Chief Justice. I'm sure that the people are noting there's a similar attack was placed on the Chief Justice and the Prime Minister. I wonder why. I wonder if it is because of their Africanness. I wonder why. Is it because of their Africanness? I'm asking all those people that. I want to ask them if that is a devious plot to do that. But let me remind them about something. Let me remind them, as you all try to attack the distinguished tenure of Her Excellency, let me remind you all what has happened in Trinidad and Tobago. Let me remind you, President Paula Weeks is not before the criminal or civil court on charge of corruption. You know that? You know that? President Weeks did not try to get America to put sanctions on Trinidad and Tobago so that we lose about $36 billion and send us to the IMF. She didn't do that. President Weeks, at no time at all in public appearances, you found that she was always dignified and sober. You remember that? In her tenure, whenever she attended any public event, she was dignified and sober. You know that? President Weeks was never sent by Justice Abood to the High Court on serious allegations of fraud and conspiracy. You know that? That is President Weeks. She has a distinguished career. And let me go on to tell you what her career is. Who is the real President Paula Weeks? I don't know. I've never seen her. But I know she has carried herself with honor and distinguished herself. In 1980, she graduated with Bachelor of Laws honors in law, right? She joined in 1982. She joined the office of the DPP. She was no fly-by-night vaccine lady. She joined the office of the DPP. And as a state counsel for 11 years, representing the state in the magistrate court, the high court, and the appeal court. That is the president, Paula Weeks talking about, a distinguished lady. In 1996, she was invited to be a judge. You hear that? Invited. She didn't walk in and take it like how Kamala did it and say, look, give herself. She wasn't self-appointed. She was invited in 1996 to be a judge. She presided exclusively in the criminal court for 9 years. I'm telling you, but Justice Paula Weeks, that is distinguished lady that they're trying to put mud on. As I'll ask again as I continue to close, is it because of her Africanness? Yes. In 2005, she became an appeal court judge and presided there for 11 years. An appeal court judge. Presided there for 11 years. In 2016, she was invited, as Dominic said, by the Turks and Caicos to be an appeal court judge in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Invited because of her distinguished career, because of the way she conducted herself. Those things don't happen by guess and by that. She didn't appoint herself in those things. She was invited, right? And I want to add this to her. She was a course director in ethics and the rights of legal profession. In the rights of legal profession, she was an educator in legal matters as well. This is a distinguished lady, and I take real objection. I take real umbrage to those people who are trying to sully and nasty your name. Yes, sully and nasty your name. And I do this here on the pure fact that as a citizen, I take real objection to the attempt to try to sully this distinguished lady name. And I want to close by asking this question again to all of them, as they did with the Chief Justice, as they did with the Prime Minister. Is it because of her Africanness? Is it because of the protocol that you see in Trinidad and Tobago? You see the President, somebody of African descent. You see the Prime Minister, somebody of African descent. You see the Chief Justice, somebody of African descent. You see the DPP, somebody of African descent. Is something wrong with that? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chance. Hello, good morning. Good afternoon, sorry. Hello, good afternoon. Why am I not getting this? Hello? Okay. Hello, good afternoon. All right, let's see this one. Hello, good afternoon.
How are you going, Dominic?
Hi, good man.
Yeah, happy New Year, you.
And to you.
And all the callers and listeners and whatnot. Well, you know, Mr. Chance was on the button. Trust me, because Dominic, I listen a certain frequency this week going there. I listen at plenty because it's the most racist frequency I ever see with callers. That even though the host does try to indicating that they debunked what the callers, set of callers from South, like from Penal and them go all back. And you know, a caller from Madras, you know what she says? After this president term exit, she only hope the prime minister and pick a picky head. A picky head.
Wow.
President again. Honestly, I tell you. Wow. I tell you that. So, Mr. Chance was on the... But when I listened to that, I mean, I don't already know it in the DNA. I don't already know that. Wow. Because plenty of them is here talking. They have it not because of they don't like because of the party, because of the man and the ethnic of the EDP. You understand?
Yes.
All right, Dom, you take care.
You too. Thank you.
And stay strong, yeah.
Interesting indeed. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Roman.
Greetings.
Well, I want to just, all the best to you for the new year and everything.
And to you too.
Good, thanks. I want to join in support of Mr. Chance and everything that he has said today. Lucid and thorough and detailed as usual. Now, I want to make reference to this headline, this screaming headline by one Miss Anna Randa. Tainted tenure.
Yes.
Tainted tenure. The last president we had, Anthony Carmona, do you recall, Mr. Romaine, that President's house, when he became president, you remember President's house was under repairs?
Yes.
Do you also recall that the state had provided living quarters for him at Flagstaff?
Correct, yes.
Good. Do you also recall that he had been in receipt of $28,000 a month housing allowance?
Yes, yes.
While he was president?
Mm-hmm.
And while state accommodation had already been provided for him at Flagstaff Hill?
Mm-hmm.
And he continued to receive the $28,000
yes.
for over 2 years of his tenure. And despite public calls for two things to happen, for him to return the money that he had received and for the government to call upon him to return the money that he had received as a housing allowance, two things happened. He never gave back a cent, and the Bethesda government never called upon him to either return the money that he had received unfairly or to stop issuing that $28,000 a month to him as housing allowance. But Ms. Ramdas does not see that as a tainted tenure. She does not see that. You see? And secondly, as I've said before, this broadside on Miss Paula May Weeks, and I agree with Mr. Chance, and it is not by any coincidence that she's being attacked and buffeted from all sides. And I'm convinced that it is because she's a woman of African descent. I'm convinced, I'm sure of that. How come, in the eyes of these so-called UE academics, Vishnu Raghunath, Indira Rampasad, who, by the way, is one of the staunchest supporters of Kamala Prasad Bisesa, and they always go to her for, quote-unquote, an objective opinion.
Yes.
An objective opinion. And she's an out-and-out, open supporter of Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the UNC. That is irrefutable information. How come when Carmona was president, he wasn't a rubber stamp president? How come when Noor Hassan Ali was made president by Basdeo Pandey, he was not a rubber stamp president? How come? And he served 2 terms. Robinson's NAR gave him an additional 5 years. How come, and this is the crux of the matter, how come for Fazil Mohammed, Noor Hassan Ali was not a rubber stamp president? How come? Well, I'll tell you how come he was not a rubber stamp president. Noor Hassan Ali is a prominent member of the Muslim community of Trinidad and Tobago. Fazil Mohammed is a Muslim like Noor Hassan Ali. And that is why Fazil Mohammed could have never viewed Noor Hassan Ali as a rubber stamp president. Bona fide man, bona fide, perfect, ideal, perfect man, and so on, high morals, and so on. He could not have been a rubber stamp president, no, because they were of the same religion. But Paula May Weeks is a woman of African descent, and who's a prominent member of the Anglican community of Trinidad and Tobago. She's a rubber stamp president. And I am not surprised either about Linda Capildeo. I am not surprised either. I mean, she is calling on the president to deal with things like, or to have said something about flooding,
yes,
and the economy and food prices. This is not surprising. And finally, why is it and how is it that all 3 daily newspapers, when they're looking for views on the state of the country, the state of the economy, an analysis of government's performance so far, and so on, how come the go-to people are always people who are anti-PNM? How in God's name, I mean, screaming headlines in the Guardian a couple of days ago, and pictures of 2 people, they're asking them about the presidency and the state of the economy. You're going to ask, and the pictures, Basdeo Pandey, a former UNC Prime Minister, and Indira Rampasad, who is an out-and-out anti-PNM lecturer at the university. Out and out. And you see, I've always told a friend of mine, you see characters like that, Vishnu Raghunath, Roger Hussain, I am just thankful to God above that I am no longer far removed from being a student at UWI. Because I've always told a friend, it would break my heart if I had to confront a situation where a child of mine or a young relative of mine, a young child, 19, 20, 21, sits in a classroom to be taught by those characters. You see, if a child is writing a paper on politics in Trinidad and Tobago, and they write something that, after objective analysis, proper research, well-written, good resourcing, and so on, and a very comprehensive analysis, and showing PNM in a favorable light. You know what these lecturers will do? They will mark that child not on the manner and the quality of presentation of the material, whether it is properly analyzed, whether it's objectively written, whether it's properly researched, and so on. They will mark that child based on opinion, based on their political opinion and bias. So a well-written paper by somebody who does not trot out a political opinion favorable to these lecturers, people like Vishnu Raghunath and Indira Rampata, if the person, is entitled to a B+, or even an A for that matter, you could bet your life you're getting C+, C, C-. On what basis? Because I don't agree with your opinion. That is what it is. I don't agree with your opinion. Notwithstanding the fact that the paper may have been very well written, with good basis, looking at all angles, all sides and so on, but open political bias. So I conclude by saying, these are not lecturers at UWI with a political bias. These are politicians masquerading as lecturers at the University of the West Indies. That's what they are. Thank you, Mr. Romain. Have a good day.
You too, sir. Thank you. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Douglas.
Hey, Jen.
I too want to join with Mr. Chance and wish you and your family a blessed 2023 and all the best. To all the callers and listeners of 91.9 Trinidad and Tobago and those abroad, everybody, a blessed season 2023, and we look forward to more positive things. And just as wickedness and evilness and hate and racism don't take a day off, we who stand up the right thinking citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we love and peace and harmony and bringing the information, the proper information, we cannot take a day off either. I also want to say that, in my opinion, based on the way Kareem Martel from the BTAM, when BTAM experienced having the first attorney, not the first intellectual, first attorney, the way that Kareem Martel and his family were dragged in the mud and continue to be dragged in the mud, I am saying it is because the president is an African woman and an intellectual at that. That is why they are behaving that way. It appears that once you are an African person in this country and you achieve any success academically, intellectually, once you're not on them side, they're going to drag you down and make you feel as if you're less than in a society that is supposed to be every creed and race find an equal place. But we will continue to excel and excel as persons of African descent because we have been doing it for centuries. It didn't happen yesterday. Look at Douglas Warner from the Massey chain store. Under his stewardship, they are buying IGA 7 supermarket chain in Miami. Massey is buying that. Massey has also gone into, I think, distributing with gas. They have bought some company with gas. They are making money under a black man, African man, Douglas Warner, who is an intellectual also. So don't let them tell us that we can't do business. But I continue with it. They keep dragging, as I said, the president, Madam Paula May Weeks. But under, as the last caller would have said, I think it was under the former president, under when Titi was there, Kamona. Wasn't there some issue with some wine and the bottle wine, they buy wine, put it in bottle and sell and all that? All that was part of the presidential duties. But no, isn't Paula May Weeks for the presidency a non-executive one? And being that is more ceremonial and really cannot take part in the active politics in terms of making policies and that kind of thing. So if that is what a non-executive president is, and people are not comfortable with that, should they not be lobbying or seeing if you want a president who could take part in the active politics and make policies and make decisions and all that, look for executive one, instead of dragging Madam Paula May Weeks. But it's because of her intelligence and her capabilities why that is happening. With regards to Gary Griffith and his tenure as Commissioner of Police, when you look at it, in 2019, in a Guardian report by Joel Julian, it said 485 murders recorded under Gary Griffith's watch. And that was 2 weeks was left to celebrate his first anniversary as the Commissioner of Police. There was 485 murders. So when people speak about Gary Griffith was doing the work, it may have been looking on the surface. However, I was expecting that under his tenure, we would see about 5, we might see about 6 or 7, but there were 485 murders in 2019, just 2 weeks shy from his year anniversary as Commissioner of Police. That is very instructive. I also wanted to, I saw that Kamala Prasad would have made her New Year's speech and all that. And I hope she reads the comments. Because if she read the comments, she'll understand that people are not swayed in her position, in her defense, no more they're asking her to leave. Even people who have Indian surnames, they're telling her to leave. They're telling her, why don't she get on board and help with the government to fight crime? They're not saying complimentary things, but as a woman who doesn't consider how she was fought in the election or how much talent she said she still wins, I don't think reading that will impact on her. But I hope her handlers are watching, that people are not so in favor of this Auntie Kamala and this grandmother and all that. They would just want her to go. And finally, while they were looking at the PNM and Balize House building, yeah, this is the third time now I hear, or the fourth time, how much time? UNC had to pick up the Georgie bundle and go, because they had to move from which part it is now. They was in UNC, they wasn't paying the rent around them from there. They went someplace above some rum shop and some funeral parlor, they moved from there too. Now they're going somewhere. Why all you don't put all the money and resources together? Because you already the people who have the money, and you already intellectuals, and you all can do business. Why all who support the UNC, all these people of Indian descent who have nothing good to say about this country and PNM, well, they put all their money together and put up and build a headquarters to the UNC, because the UNC is the next largest political party. It has been wrong, not as long as PNM, but it has been wrong. And build something substantive, do that. But only watching what PNM build here. Had it remained so embarrassed by Balize House, you know what I say? Okay, look how long PNM there and they can't do nothing. Now a 4-story. 4-story, plus they rebuild. Watch me that hot in them. But UNC only booming from pillar to post. So let's check on itself for 2023. And we continue, but Paula May Weeks, in my opinion, is because she's African. Why they're doing that? Had it been an Indian person or a person like colored, in my opinion, the conversation would have been different. But we will continue to expel, and we will join with all right thinking citizens, African, Indian, Chinese, all. And we will develop this country, and we will assist the People's National Movement to continue into leadership, because I'm the only steady party now. And for Tobago and Sally, Tobago like real mama guy. If you can tell mama guy, Sally would have been a millionaire. Yeah? I go and Dominic reach home safely.
Thank you, Jen.
Dominic.
Hi, Carol.
Good afternoon to you.
Greetings.
And Happy New Year to you, my dear.
And to you too.
Do you make these New Year resolutions and so?
No.
Right. You're not of that ilk.
No.
Right, Dominic boy, I want to agree with Mr. Chance and all the callers who speaking on behalf of Miss Paula maybe. When I look at that lady, she's a lady. She's a woman of class. Right? She's a woman of dignity. She wasn't involved. Her name wasn't called in any kind of brouhaha. Jenny mentioned it because I was about to with somebody with a wine bottle and wine something. And then you hear that the talk about that was rum shop talk. Right? You didn't hear, okay? This lady wasn't involved in that. This lady, and there was also some monies where you have to, but renters of a building because the president's house was being rebuilt. All these kind of little brouhahas. Her name wasn't called in those things. Why is she being attacked? She's an upstanding woman, involved in different activities for the love of her country. She's also a cultural activist. You know that she was also a Calypsonian to Dominic?
Yes.
She also played the steel pan. Are you aware?
Yeah.
With Power Stars and so on. So this lady is really a shining example for people to take note of,
yes.
Especially people of African descent. It's a lady you can look up to. She's not involved in any kind of scandal and all this kind of thing, and wouldn't get down into the gutter. Right? So, Dominic, and another thing I have to say, the social media officer is so important. PNM people went and put back the same person. Is this person doing the work? You're going to do this, but that's the same person to do the same thing, expecting a different result. Here we have a young man doing the research, doing what is needed where the social media is concerned. I am seeing this other person doing that, coming to defense of and debunking all the dirtiness and the nastiness being spread, attacking people of African descent. Where is the social media officer involved in these things? Why you haven't come to the defense? And this man, Mr. Warner, he is involved, affiliated with Neil and Massey All Stars, another cultural activist, loves steel band and so on, doing well as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. He has taken Massey to certain heights. He has business outside and so on. Why the attack on people of African descent? Why? Why? You understand the thing is why? So my thing is the social media officer. You need to get cracking. You see, you have so much thing on your plate. You cannot handle. No man could serve two masters at the same time. What you have to do is have a team. Call in somebody like Dominic and form a team and maybe give him a stipend because he's a man worthy of that, to work with you and really get the truth outside here. Because the print media isn't doing it. They are the mouthpiece for other political parties, like they have their own agenda. So you need to get a team, a formidable team, to do the work. You understand? To get the information out there. So when people have the information, they can make informed decisions and not run with everything. Social media officer is very important, sir. I hope you're listening wherever you are. It's very important, right? And as Mr. Chan said, they're trying to rent a space in people's head. So when my family members come to me, well, I see this on the social media, I run them with the foolish talk. I say, listen to me, the truth is X, Y, and Z. That's why you need a social media, right, officer for. And that is why people were supporting Dominic, because he is able to manage his time. He don't have, I don't know if he has as much on his plate as you have, sir, who got the position. I ain't seen you working yet. You understand? So have a formidable team. And also the PR officer. You need to have a formidable team to deal with the nastiness and so on, and the misinformation and the lies, the big lies. You need that. Okay? So my dear Dominic, blessings to you. And I know you will, go by leaps and bounds, and good things await you in 2023 and beyond.
Thank you.
And I'm claiming it for you. You can claim it for yourself too.
Indeed.
Good things await you in the name of Jesus. And to you and your family, blessings, peace, prosperity, good health. Dominic, I know you're the man. I saw you check on your health. You do your exercises and, you keep the body fit and all this kind of thing. Yes. A healthy body keeps a healthy mind. Why do you think these people writing so much rubbish all over the place? I think they're healthy, I think they're so healthy, because the kind of thing in the head. And don't ask about if you're lecturing in UE. I could tell you, they're a stake side, try to influence the students up there. I know. I was part of the thing. You understand? You know who was doing what for who. But anyway, so blessings to you, my dear.
You too.
Right, oh dear. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Helen, good afternoon.
Dominic, greetings.
Greetings, sir.
Happy New Year to you, my friend.
And to you too.
Hey, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
Aisha did a program Friday, the most annoying caller on a program. I came fourth.
You came what?
I came fourth.
Really?
Yeah. But you see, they forget I got banned for a while.
Right.
But they still put me fourth.
Who came first?
You see how they forget quick?
Who came first?
Who came first? I think Wall Street, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, Wall Street came first. But if I forget, I'll get banned. But it's all right. 9 days wonders. Hey, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
I had told you about Julian Rogers.
Uh-huh.
And before the 2015 general elections, he did 2 or 3 interviews with Dr. Rowley. PNM won the elections. Dr. Rowley put Julian Rogers in charge of a state-owned company. 2 or 3 interviews. One of the callers called and told you how Mr. Pandey had rescinded his contract and get rid of Julian Rogers. Dominic, who bring him back? Who bring back Julian Rogers in Trinidad? Me, you?
I recall the controversy when Mr. Pandey refused to allow Mr. Rogers the renewal of his work permit.
That's right. He get rid of Julian Rogers. Who bring him back? He did 2 or 3 interviews with Dr. Rowley before the 2015 general election. PNM win the elections. Dr. Rowley put Julian Rogers in charge of a state-owned company. Who bring back Julian Rogers in Trinidad? Me? You? And the one that talk wireless get vexed? Dominic, enjoy your weekend, my friend.
You too, sir.
I will leave it here.
All right. The point I was making is that I recall that, but I don't recall there was anything wrong with Julian Rogers at the time. But anyway, let me take this last call. Just have about 2 minutes. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Romain.
Brian, greetings.
I, too, would like to join the previous callers and wish you and your family all the best for 2023.
And to you and yours.
Thank you so kindly, sir. I'd also like to wish all of the listeners, callers, well-wishers, talk show hosts of 91.9, constructive talk, all the best for themselves and their families. Bruce, I am saying this. I've listened to all the calls. I think much has been said. There's very little for me to say. But some of what was said earlier brought certain things to my mind. I recall when Justice Carmona was president, he called the then Minister of National Security, Major General Dillon, to his office. And that was looked at as a no-no. And I'm of the firm view that certain people and well-wishers and supporters of the UNC thought that was okay. So therefore, Ms. Capeldeo's remarks that this present president is not doing certain things, maybe she does not understand clearly, or she took it for granted that this is how it was supposed to be. You understand? Because as you rightly said earlier, they're not reading, they're not educating themselves about what a president's roles and functions and duties are, and the powers that they do not or they do have. But what you have, Dominic, after Mr. Chance has given us that very eloquent qualifications and history of Miss Weeks, Her Excellency. When you have people who have nothing to say except to call her insipid, you know what, and call her all sorts of names, and you have people who have been bought out in the media to put screaming headlines, as one of your callers indicated, about this president. If she stays, I know she's a strong-willed woman, but not very many people who enjoy private life and their well-being will want to be able to take that for another 5 years. It is difficult to every time you, and as she said in her New Year's speech, because as you rightly said, she looks at social media and she would do a lot of reading and so on. She's up to date. And it is painful to see that people who do not even know this woman, knows nothing about her except to see her as everybody has said before, as an African woman, as a black woman, will want to say all sorts of things about somebody they never met before. You understand? Why? To hound out office, to put who they believe will go there next? Because as I rightly said, I heard a gentleman come and suggested Basio Pandey. Basio Pandey must be, 89 or 90 years now to be president of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, if it is you have, this government brings legislation and they get absolutely no support from the opposition, when people believe that that is how it's supposed to be, and people complain about the amount of murders and so on in the country, and if it is all the other countries in the Caribbean are upgrading their
leave it there, Brian.
Huh?
Better leave it there. Adds up.
Okay, no problem. Right. We'll talk again. Thanks a lot.
Out of time, not out of things to say, folks. Join me on Tuesday. Join Sharon and Bruce tomorrow. I'm out.
Go pay some bills.